There is a saying that goes, "Gypsy gold does not chink and glitter. It gleams in the sun and neighs in the dark." For the Romany gypsies, their colored horses with the lush feather, manes, and tails are their proudest possession. The product of a half-century breeding endeavor, these stout and hardy horses are ideally suited to pull the colorful caravans the gypsies call home. The horses. The horses of the gypsy people are like no other, and even today, many people outside of the UK have never seen a horse which can only be described as magical. The breed was developed from a combination of breeds, notably the Shire, the Clydesdale, the Frisian, and the Dales pony, resulting in a smaller draft horse with a sweeter head, with lush feather from the knees down and a profuse mane and tail. While most are black and white, they can also be found in brown and white, black, gray, even palomino. Because the gypsies travel with their children, aggressive horses were typically not chosen, resulting in a horse with a kind and willing temperament, as well as exceptional intelligence and heart. Appleby. By the River Eden, the gypsy people have gathered here in the month of June for over 300 years. In 1685, King James II chartered the fair, granting the gypsies an annual assembly place in northern England in an effort to keep them out of the more sophisticated surroundings of London and urban areas. The gypsies, also called travelers or tinkers, have always lived on the edge of conventional society. The first written references to the gypsies can be traced all the way back to 1572. Then they were called Egyptians because it was believed they originated in Egypt. Eventually, Egyptian was shortened to gypsy. During the reign of Henry VIII, gypsies were viewed as spies and foreigners. Strict and discriminating laws were passed to expel them from the country and banned others under penalty of death. Even those who associated with the gypsies were also subject to the death penalty. In some regard, times have not changed all that much for the gypsies. The struggle for equal rights for these transient people led to the passing of the Caravan Sites Act 1968, that for some time safeguarded their rights, lifestyle, and culture in the United Kingdom, by creating camps throughout the UK where gypsies may congregate, but the ultimate goal was still to restrict their free-flowing movement and wandering lifestyle. From the main street in Appleby, by the River Eden, where the gypsies wash their horses in the river, the fair extends up Battlebarrow to Fairhill and Gallows Hill, aptly named for their historical references to public hangings and the gypsy horse markets that have existed here for centuries. Appleby. The hills are covered with fairgoers and gypsies alike, reflecting both historical and contemporary means of transportation. As recently as the 1970s, the gypsies nearly abandoned their conventional mode of transportation, opting for more contemporary accommodations and Airstream trailers. But a resurgence in their heritage and pride led many back to their roots and more traditional forms of conveyance, the Vardo wagons and the colorful horses that pull them throughout their homeland. The gypsy wagons are not merely a form of conveyance, but rather an art form, a brightly decorated reflection of the colorful life of the gypsy people. Appleby. Everywhere one looks are the colored horses, mixed in with traditional gypsy vardos, trailers and trucks. There are gypsies hawking everything, from traditional harness and tack to sunglasses and DVDs. Including both gypsies and onlookers, nearly 50,000 people come to this curious event, a hectic and frenetic affair that few who venture there will ever forget. Appleby is a curious mix of mayhem and merriment, heritage and happenstance, horseshoes and high heels. A place where the horse trading is both deeply rooted in exaggeration and a sense of gypsy honor. Among gypsies, a man's word is his honor, for no gypsy would want a reputation as being a liar among his own people. But in dealings with a gajo, an outsider, it is pure tradition to overstate a given horse's quality and value. At the top of Fair Hill, above the town of Appleby, lies a patch of grass known as Millionaire's Row, where much of the horse trading takes place. Horse trading is not a transaction, it is theater. When the haggling begins, onlookers gather in spontaneous circles around the action. Buyer and seller slap hands backwards repeatedly until agreement is reached on a price. Satisfaction is signaled with a forward slap of the hands, and a deal is consummated. But the transaction is not complete until, in gypsy tradition, money is returned to the buyer for his luck. Virtually unnoticed by onlookers, the money changes hands and a lead rope is passed to the new owner. No registration papers or documentation are exchanged, for the gypsies do not keep records. The purchase is based on part honor, part blind faith, part risk. For this is the gypsy culture. It is not uncommon for a given horse to be bought and sold many times during the course of the fair. Everywhere one looks, gypsy horses are being displayed, either tethered on a line or being flashed for the public, a technique requiring the horse to be driven or ridden at an animated if not breakneck pace up and down the streets, usually preceded by the warning, "Watch your back." Accidents, injuries, and even fatalities are not uncommon, but this too is the gypsy way. Undoubtedly, Appleby Horse Fair is one of the most interesting and curious events in the world. A blend of 300 years of history and heritage commingled with the contemporary world, a people living true to their ways, their culture, their reputation, in a world that wants to restrict their serendipitous lifestyle and their wandering ways, a world which would have otherwise passed them by. But the gypsy lifestyle and the magnificent horses that are so irrevocably linked to their culture have survived centuries of misunderstanding and suspicion. Perhaps they will never achieve acceptance and integration into contemporary society, but perhaps they don't want to. Having survived hundreds of years living on the fringe of society, in a web and cloud of suspicion, it is undoubtedly certain they and their special horses will survive several centuries into the future.